Good morning. Morning. I'd like to call the July 23rd Executive Committee meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please, Kelly?
Mr. Lear? Mr. Washington?
Present.
Mr. Lajass? Mr. Olthoff? Mr. Hess? Mr. Tholen? Mr. Byrne? Ms. Weber? Mr. Payton? Mr. Ritter? Mr. Kinzinger? Ms. Haas? Mr. Seroy?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Do I have any public comment for the committee? Do I have any public comment? Seeing very few public, I assume we have no public comment. No presentations today that I'm aware of. We have any presentations, Kelly? No presentations. Okay. Approval of the June 25th and July 9th executive committee meetings. Mr. Byrne with a second, and Mr. Payton with a first, and Mr. Payton with a second. All in favor of approving the minutes? All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Mr. Lear is away at convention along with Mr. Olthoff, I know. So we do not have a legislative update. And I do not have any appointments currently. So we will move to Information Services, Mr. Kevin Duvall. Morning, Kevin.
Morning. Again, I'll keep it quick. Just a brief update of where we're standing on the refresh project. The IT department is on budget. We're where we thought we would be at this point, and we are on track with the refresh. Mainly the refresh is this building, and we're sitting well. We're trying to finish up in the county clerk. We've got the vast majority of their PCs switched out. We had to wait on a couple machines until Dan could negotiate with some vendors to get newer versions of the software to run on the new for elections. He's negotiated that. He told me last week we put in one of the machines. The vendor's gonna come in, install it, make sure it works, and then we'll finish the rest of those. All that's going smoothly. And the county clerk's office required us first to update all the desktops. He needs to update his server. Once that's complete, we will be updating his server. He's paying for all of it. There's no expense to the general fund. He secured a grant that pays for it. I believe it's 100% funded. We will complete that hopefully in the next couple of months. It's already been planned for. I've already got the cost estimates to him. He's on board with that, so we should be moving forward that, and we'll be out of that department. The rest of the departments in this building, I believe we're done with all of them. At the same time, we're working in the judicial. I believe last time we discussed this, I told you we had addressed the judges. We've replaced all of the judges' PCs that are in their chambers, and then we've now moved on to their actual courtrooms. That's a much slower process because we have to work around the courts, and we make sure we don't interfere with that. And as anybody that's been in the county courtrooms, not one is designed the same shape or size, so we have to customize every setup for them, and we have to find out where each judge wants it so it doesn't interfere. So one courtroom may take as long as doing a whole department somewhere else, but you have to do it to make sure you don't interfere with the flow of the courts. We've been doing it for years. We're just letting you know about it. It's not an inconvenience. It just is what it is. On top of that, we're working with the recorder's office. As you know, at her last community service billing, she informed you that she was spending her funds to send her internal software out to in the cloud. The vast majority of her network is will still be here. So we're working together with her. She asked me to get quotes for PCs. I got it back to her. She immediately purchased them. She's paying for that out of her fund. So that, again, that's not any general fund expenses. We have those downstairs. Once we're done with the courtrooms, we will begin staging those, and we hopefully will be out of that in probably 30, 40 days. Once we're done with that, we hope to move back to the courts, and then we'll work on finishing the circuit clerks department, which is our biggest department we deal with. The courts actually probably demand 70% of our time, or the annex in the courts, and as you can guess, there's more bodies over there than there is here. Again, they pay for it out of their computer funds. Again, I'd like to explain when I say this, none of these projects that we work on are additional general fund expenses. They're various computer funds that I believe you've all voted on, so you know where they're sitting at there. So I'm not bringing anything new additional expenses to you. We're just letting you know what we're working on and that we are proceeding. One of the things that were brought up, and I'll just keep it brief on this, that was when the gentleman did a presentation, I believe he asked or inferred the question of whether or not the county has cyber insurance. Yes, we have cyber insurance. One of the first things that the current administration did when they came in was to bring in a cyber insurance policy, and I believe you all voted on it. It's probably up for renewal this year. Reason I know more about it is, or somewhat about it, is there's a section of it that I have to fill out. I did fill out. I assume from this point on, they'll just renew it at that point. But that portion says you have to have a certain standard for the insurance to be in place. We met or exceed all parts of that. So to let you know, we do have that.
Mrs. Speckman.
Actually, tomorrow, Steve will talk about it tomorrow at Finance, but it did renew 8/1, the cyber policy, but I've been in touch with Andy, and we're gonna just extend the policy through 12/1, so it renews with the rest of ours. So
we're covered and we'll be covered.
yeah, I'll steal Steve's thunder for tomorrow, but yeah, we're just gonna extend it so that it renews at 12/1 and comes up with the rest of ours. It kind of came up quick. We didn't have time to really look into it. So that's what we're going to do.
And I just want to make sure that everybody understood that the county is covered with a cyber insurance policy. That being said, they did give a few examples. They talked about how certain government entities paid out when things happen. Just so you know, the recommendation from the FBI, the NSA, is to never pay out. That because you just encourage it to keep happening at that point. The number one thing that protects you against that is something that I've implemented here and dramatically increased since the current administration, and working together with them, is your backups. We have backups. We have extensive backup. We've doubled the amount of backups because we now not only just have servers, we have all the desktops backups, and we do offsite storage of the backups and rotation. So if something happens, and so you know at some point something's always going to happen, yeah, we'll be able to restore to a certain certain point in time and get you back up and going. We just want to ensure, because that the question was put out as if it wasn't being. Yes, it's always been addressed. We've had conversations. We just don't address this in a public forum. I won't ever go into specifics because you don't say in a video what you're doing. So, but it is being addressed. You have the right to know those questions. If you have anything specifically, you can ask me after the meeting. I'll be glad to answer it.
Mr. Chairman?
About it.
Any questions for Mr. Duval?
Chairman.
Kevin, our insurance provider also provides training towards cybersecurity for individual departments if they need be. Is that correct?
Chairman.
Oh, Mr. Washington, you got it, buddy. Hold on one moment. You got it, Mr. Washington.
Kevin, when you say in the cloud, could you give us an elaboration of what difference it makes putting something in the cloud rather than just saying it's in the cloud? Is it more secure? Is it creating more space? What is it doing?
It's a preference that each department, I believe I said in that community service, the current chairman actually wanted every department when their software comes up to renewal to look at that option. It can be more secure. Is it more secure than what we're doing? Not necessarily, since we already remove. We already keep multiple copies and some of them off-site. She's kind of going to an additional step where they're just accessing it from outside, so it's never actually in this building. So if you hate to say these things, but if the building blew up, theoretically you could go to another building, immediately access it. Well, you also would have bigger problems if your building blew up than getting that office back up. But it is an additional step. I hate saying those things, but it is a worst case scenario coverage thing. Again, we are doing, I don't want to say the same thing, but because ours isn't out in the cloud, you can afford to do things in the cloud when you're a smaller department. The bigger you are, that would actually become more expensive than your actual current network, because you pay for the data that it goes through. So some departments can do it, some can't. She's going that extra step. She has the funds to do it. She feels happy with it. The chairman has requested everybody look that over and see if that meets what best serves your department. We've actually been doing that to a certain extent in the HR department for years. But there are other offices that do various versions of being in the cloud. It resides somewhere else and you access it through your bandwidth. So hopefully I explained that clearly and didn't ramble. Sorry.
That's good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Duvall? Good to go, Kevin. Thank you. Sorry, George, I missed you there. You're staring right at you and missed you.
You did it on purpose.
Apologize. Next up is Health Department, Mr. Beavis. He doesn't have anything to report. If anybody has any questions, Mr. Beavis is available. Any questions for Mr. Beavis? All right. Thank you, John. Schools, Dr. Greg Murphy. Could I get a motion to accept his report to put on file? Mr. Legesse and Mr. Byrne with a second. All in favor of putting this on file? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Then we move to the VAC. Karen Smatansky. I know Karen. Okay. Do we have her monthly report in our packet? Can we approve a motion to, or do we approve the VAC report, or we just note that it's on file? Okay, we note that it's on file. The VAC report is in your packet. Requires no vote. Let's do that, Mr. Byrne. If you would like to make a motion to put it on file, and we'll second. Mr. Payton, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries, is on file. That's all right, thank you. The County Administrator's Report, Ms. Anita Speckman. Morning, Anita.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
You have the staffing report in front of you, and it's been pretty quiet for the most part. If you look at the additions and terminations, really the bulk of the activity is down in corrections, which is pretty standard based on the number of employees, the percentage they are of our total staff there. So both there and some changes in their medical staff. Really, those are part-time people that we're switching around. So, and then the circuit clerk. The circuit clerk hired 2 part-time people that had gone, I think it was the finance department where that was approved, her 2 part-time people. And then one turned around and terminated right away. So those are really the bulk of the changes in terms of staffing. The corrections group, they did hire a new group of 4 more full-time people. They've got several employees, long-term employees that are out on longer-term work comp or FMLA leave, so they've got some staffing issues down there trying to keep, even though they're not showing as terminations right now, they're kind of pulling their hair out down there a little bit.
They're in need of some help.
Yep, they are in need of help. And then just to follow up, last month, Mr. Kinzinger asked about terminations and turnover rate. I actually did go back and rerun all the numbers for 2018, and it was 14% was our turnover rate for last year. Of those, 28% were in corrections. I also looked at length of tenure, and 51% of the terminations were people under a year. So, yeah, between really corrections and CanCom, that's where you see that larger turnover rate. I think that's it. Other than that, we have started to work on the renewal. I'm getting some things together. It'll look at, we have the next meeting. Andy and Steve and I met with the insurance company, I think 2 weeks ago, for our initial meeting. We're going to follow up and meet the 31st of this month, a Friday or a Wednesday afternoon. I'm not quite sure what the cutoff is. We were trying to get another month's worth of activity into our claims. If you remember, I think we mentioned we had a couple really high months. The last 2 months, May and June, were up way over 100%, 130, 140%. Actually, that was April and May. When I got the June numbers, they were down to about 96%, which looks good, but we've got a pretty serious claim that just popped up recently. So depending on where the cutoff is, that may or may not be part of the mix. So we'll see what that does to our renewal. The numbers at this point, just me on the outside looking in, don't look quite as favorable as our trend looked last year, but we'll keep our fingers crossed and see what United Healthcare tells us in about 2 weeks or so.
Any questions? Mr. Legess, 14.
Anita, under the, where am I at here? Yeah, patrol sheriff's deputies, we're at 40. That includes the 3 at the courthouse.
Right.
Is there 1 or 2 at the annex?
I'm not sure. You'd have to ask the sheriff.
So basically, it's either 35 or 36 on the road.
Right,
Correct.
right,
Okay.
right.
There's at least 1 at the annex running
Right,
that machine.
right.
I know that. I thought there was supposed to be 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Need to continue your hard work. We appreciate you. We really do.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Todd.
You guys don't know how hard this lady works. I'm just telling you. Yes.
Okay,
Both of these gals up here. So, moving on.
Okay.
Thank you.
great.
These are appointments, reappointments, or resignations. I think we just have appointments. Appointment of Joe Denault to the Gar Creek Drainage District. Appointment of Devin Nugent to the Mantino No. 3 Drainage District. I don't want to say that too fast. Appointment of Andrew Wheeler to the Kankakee River Basin, Yellow River Basin Development Commission. This is and I'm going to explain that one because this is a new one. Chairman Wheeler and Chairman from Iroquois County are both going to be on this commission, and they get to work hand in hand with the Indiana side of the river issues. So this is the first part of the commission. That this is a new thing that I believe Chairman Wheeler has worked real hard in Washington trying to put this commission together so that we have a say in what's going on with the river on the other side of the border. So this is a good thing for us. I know he wanted to be on there firsthand for the first few terms of this commission so that we have a kind of a stay in the game, and we know what's going on the Indiana side. So if there's any questions, I can answer those. If not, I would look for a motion. Mr. Hess made the motion of combine and approve, and second by Mr. Byrne. We need a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. I have some openings. We have one opening in the MB Lewis Drainage District. We have one opening in the Mantino number 9 Drainage District. We have 3 openings in the Baker Creek Drainage District. We have one opening in the Caravan Drainage District. We have one opening in the Clausen Park Drainage District, one opening in the X-Line Creek Drainage District, one opening on Gar Creek Drainage District, one opening on Grinnell Special Drainage District, one opening on the Joe Beans Drainage District, one opening on the Little Beaver Special Drainage District number 1, one opening on the McGilvery Special Drainage District, one opening on the Minnie Creek Drainage District, one opening on the Moments and Yellowhead Drainage District number 1, 2 openings on the Raymond Drainage District, one opening on the Rockville Drainage District number 1, one opening on the Spring Creek Drainage District, one opening on the Yellowhead and Washington Union Drainage District number 2, one resident opening on the Kankakee Housing Authority Board, one opening on the Kankakee County Ethics Commission, 2 openings on the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission, one opening on the Kankakee County Historical Preservation Commission, and it needs to be an architect, 2 openings on the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, county board member, so that we have 2 county board member openings on the AWAC for a 1-year term, and then 3 openings on the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee with a 2-year term. So be advised, some of those I know are going to be applied by the people that might be taking those places, but if you know anybody that lives in those areas or that might be interested, please make them fill out the application that's on the website. Moving on to, are there any questions about that? Anyone? Okay. Moving on to new business. Do we have any new business to come before the committee? Any new business? Is there any old business to come before the committee? Any old business? Any other business? All right. And there'd be no monkey business back there with Mr. Legess. All right. Mr. Legess moves second. All in favor of adjournment? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.